So today's reading is going to be a classic out of page 23 of the Alcoholics Anonymous Big Book, the first paragraph, a classic little paragraph on page 23. These observations would be academic and pointless if our friend never took the first drink, thereby setting the terrible cycle in motion. Therefore, the main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than in his body. If you ask him why he started on that last bender, the chances are that he will offer you any one of 100 alibis. Sometimes these excuses have a certain plausibility, but none of them really make sense in the light of the havoc an alcoholic's drinking bout creates. They sound like the philosophy of a man who, having a headache, beats himself on the head with a hammer so that he can't feel the headache. If you draw this fallacious reasoning, is that correct? Fallaciousness. Reasoning to the attention of the alcoholic, he will laugh it off, irritated, and refuse to talk. And Paul?
I'm listening. Just had to let the cat in.
That's all right. That's all right. That was the, you want me to repeat it, or that was all?
No, we'll read through it again, I think. Yeah.
Okay, I'll read it one more time.
All right.
Yes. Okay, these observations would be almost academic to the point and pointless if our friend never took the first drink, thereby setting the terrible cycle in motion. Therefore, the main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than in his body. If you ask him why he started on this last bender, the chances are he will offer you any one of 100 alibis. Sometimes these excuses have a certain plausibility, but none of them really make sense in the light of the havoc an alcoholic's drinking bout creates. They sound like the philosophy of a man who, having a headache, beats himself on the head with a hammer so that he can't feel the ache. If you draw this fallacious reasoning to the attention of the alcoholic, he will laugh it off or become irritated and refuse to talk. That's the reading.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Yeah, and we saw this a little while ago, but I really liked the beginning of it, which to me is the whole solution really of recovery is not starting. Yeah. Yeah. Not starting. How do we get there is by admitting we can't stop. Yeah. So we admit we can't stop, we follow the suggestions, and then we arrive at a state of abstinence where we're not starting. Yeah. And that's on one level, drinking, and then maybe not starting to take the false evidence seriously in one's head, yes? And not starting to, on and on. So, and it was an incredible statement. These observations, all this stuff that he's been telling us, would be academic and pointless if our friend never took the first drink. Yeah. I had this the other night, and because it was a family member, it went on longer than usual. So again, one of my nephews called, and he was fucked, and he had, I'm not sharing about him, I'm sharing about the disease, and he's also bipolar, and he was going off on the doctor at the hospital not fulfilling his prescription for these pills he needs, which would be this whole idea. Sometimes these excuses have certain plausibility, but none of them really make sense in the light of the havoc an alcoholic's drinking creates. So he was completely focused on these whatever doctors aren't giving this, with this huge elephant, the shadow of this huge elephant of what has led you to this position. Yeah. No, just completely. Yeah? And so in a weird way, you see how the head can use drama. It uses drama of the momentary condition to really, in a way, avoid or deny the larger chronic condition. And sometimes if you have suffered from that same delusion, it's difficult to just sit there and listen without saying, hey, bro, not every doctor doesn't believe you. You may not be believable. Yes? It's not every freaking doctor you run to does not believe you. You may not be believable. That's, yeah, it's just, and it's not him. It's us. I've seen it thousands of times in me. Yeah? And I see how the head uses like momentary dramas to try to deny that looming shadow. And sometimes it's a disservice to get totally focused with the person in those little mountains out of the molehills, and you want to point something else out. And it doesn't land well usually, but truly that's true compassion. The false compassion of, giving another bomb, BALM, to soothe the momentary flare up when the chronicness is completely uninvestigated. It's that's not service in most cases for me. Yeah. So one of the things I learned in AA was, it's a disservice to keep people from their bottom. So I just kept saying, hey, it's the drinking. It's not the doctors. It's not this. It's not that. Yeah, they're all flaring up, but the one where they all get lit is from that one fire. Yeah, of untreated alcoholism or addiction. Yeah, and it's just so here, these observations of all this would be academic and pointless if our friend never took the first drink. Well, we can be a person that never takes the first drink for 34 years, 40 years, 30 years. That's the condition. Abstinence, in a way. Yeah. And what happens? Then all the essential importance of these dramas, they're not as important anymore, because you don't have to have false flag operations all day to hide what's really going on. Yeah? And then when you're sober and you don't start drinking, the shit that has really run you from the shadows can come up, and you can tell the truth and bring it to step 6 and 7 and ask that newfound inner resource to change the shit, instead of you keeping it exactly the same with the same reaction of denial or minimize, whatever. Yes? The whole system doesn't work. It doesn't work. Yeah. Its solution has you constantly busy trying to maintain it. The solution can stand on its own, to the point of all this shit would be academic and pointless if we don't drink. Yeah. And what that implies is not drinking with your teeth clenched and everything like that. That recovery has progressed to a point where, yes, you're not starting but believing the false evidence. You're not starting to put your foot in your mouth so you don't have to have skillful means to take it out of your mouth. You're not starting to go up the ass of self so you don't need to have divine proctologists' numbers on speed dial. You're not starting a lot of stuff. Yeah. I'm not having a big sit down with my girlfriend Amelia every night, going up, I gotta tell the truth about this false evidence. You know what I mean? It's just crazy. The whole system has failed. Why? Let's say the meager, maybe the wish upon wishes was, I would like to be somewhat happy, joyous, and free, and others happy, joyous, and free. All right, that chore or that intention is now given over to the hands of the selfing, and what happens? All you get back is excuses, rationality, blaming others because it doesn't produce the goods. Yeah, it's a failed system. We keep going back to the same well because it's an addiction. Just like we kept going back to the drink, we kept going back to the thinking. We keep going back to this stuff and then expecting different results. Yeah. I love that. This whole thing would be academic. Yes? Yeah. One thing I love about skillful means is when you don't need to use them. I love that. I love that they're available and you can suggest them to others, but the handle isn't well worn. You're not picking it up as much because you're in a condition, yeah, that doesn't need 24-hour surveillance. Yeah. You know what I mean? Every time you look, you're basically grazing in the same field. Yeah, you're not fucking wreaking havoc. Yeah. And if you are, start telling the truth again. Yeah. You're outmatched. So, yes, this is about not starting today. Yeah. If we give that possibility a plausibility, okay, let's harm reduce, let's stop, okay, it's necessary. But there is another possibility of not starting. Yeah. When the false evidence is starting to appear real, go to a meeting and reveal it to others. And then they're laughing about it, or the way they see it will shrink it back to a molehill. Yeah, this is why we have a community, because we're not all insane at the same time. Yeah. So, yeah. Or have some people that you speak to and go, hey, wait a minute, I've been listening to this little dialogue up there, and it doesn't sound kosher to me. Let me run it by you. And then, oh, wait a minute, Paul. Yeah, that's fucking insane. Yeah. But not, the condition of having to be on the phone every 5 minutes, you outgrow that, hopefully, after a while. Because there's a whole lot of stuff is going on and not starting that isn't going on when you're busily trying to stop. Yeah. There's a whole field of not starting, just like it says, hey, you sincerely take this position and then you get established in that position. And now the effects are quite different based on being established in it or sincerely taking, the position. Yes? Completely different effects, really. New power flowing in, you feel this, yes? That's not starting. That's beautiful. So this whole thing would be academic and plausible, yes? We don't need to know about alcoholism. We need to be free from it a day at a time. Yeah? The knowing it is to lead us to that condition. Yeah? Being a professor of holes is to lead us to the condition we don't fall into holes. Yeah? It's not to be fucking, I know, really you return to like a childlike state of I don't know, really. Yeah. All I know is I've been freed from this terrible preoccupation. Yeah. That started with not drinking, and a lot more got revealed. And what gets revealed, I'm in the habit of turning it over to the care of something greater than me, something that's more equipped to deal with this insanity stuff and the old patterns of it. And I found that works. Yeah. And then I realized I'm not making that many amends because I'm not fucking around. Yeah. And I feel meditated. And I feel like what I used to pray for, I'm living from. So I don't really pray as much because I'm in a state that I used to pray to get into. Yeah. Without knowing anything about it, I just wanted to leave the state I was in. So the state of fear that I'm everything is going to be fucked, I pray, oh, please, serenity prayer. Yeah. But now I don't believe it, that it's going to be fucked. Yeah. And a lot of great shit came out of getting fucked in a lot of ways. Yeah. So who knows? But I know I'm in good hands. Yeah. 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 So, yeah, I love that. Yeah. These observations would be academic. Wouldn't you love it to be academic so you could just go to debates and sit around and mentally pontificate about a da 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 da? But in this case, self-knowledge avails us nothing. Yeah. We need a solution that brings us into a state of not starting a lot of shit. Yeah. So not starting to believe the thoughts. How do you know you're not starting to believe the thoughts? They're not compelling the actions they used to. That's a very good indication. So maybe they're bothering your day a little bit. Maybe they're upsetting your equanimity, but you're not fucking burning your mother-in-law's house down or, yes, running people for doing shit. Yes. So you're not believing the thoughts anymore because they're there. Their drive is to compel an action. That's how they have a splash in this world. The thoughts can only do what they're doing. It's when they compel us to do something, then we're left with a tattoo. Yes. So as long as they're in the henna stage where the tattoo washes off quite easily. Yeah. So how can you not believe in the thoughts that are introducing false evidence? Hopefully see them as not yours. That seems difficult, is it? Go to AA meetings and listen to people share their thoughts and their feelings and their behaviors based on those thoughts and feelings. They sure sound like ours, don't they? There you go. Maybe call them alcoholic thoughts. And what happens? You'll feel some relief from the thoughts. Because the my is like the cinching. It cinches the fucking bondage, yeah? You know when you have a stuff on a truck, they have these fabrics that have a cinch thing. So you put it on there and you pull it and it locks it in really well. Well, this is the my. The my is like the cinching of the bondage of self. Yeah? My thoughts, my this, my that, my life. Yeah? It's the cinching of the bondage of self. It secures the fucking false evidence and the false narrative. And then that truck goes careening down the road. Yeah, so I love that. I really love that. Because to me, it's sort of like a whiff of the land of abstinence, yes? Yeah. And it doesn't just stop at I'm not starting drinking. It's I'm not starting to take myself so fucking seriously. I'm not starting to take these thoughts so seriously. I'm not starting to take this feeling that I can't describe but my head does very quickly. Oh, you're hating your partner or something. I'm not starting a lot of these giant yeah. And when you're not starting that shit, other stuff starts, yeah? Maybe the ability to, enjoying peace of mind starts. The recognition that you can never be anywhere else but here and now, that starts, yeah? Yet the sense of assurance in a crazy world starts because you're relying on something reliable, yeah? So many of us are so, hopefully. The evidence, if seen not through the bondage of self, is quite obvious. It's when self reads it that you get a fucking weird narrative, or the way it collates the evidence is sort of, you know what I mean? The evidence is someone definitely killed the other person, and then you have a lawyer that collates it and makes it seem like, wait a minute, yeah, but the fact is someone killed the other person. If you look at your own life, you'll see any life run yours on self-will is hardly going to be a success. Yeah, you'll see that you're unmanageable, and life is unmanageable because you keep trying to manage it from self. You'll see it. The evidence is there. Yeah, it's just who's reading it. So when you get broken and there's a surrender, life finally, you really finally read the display of the dashboard, and you realize you're driving on empty. You've run out of oil. And, here, please, someone come and take the wheel. I can't. So, yeah, I'm happy to be here, and it's a beautiful. It reminds me of something in the Course of Miracles where it talks about all this shit happening, but it says, if vision was aware of, if the spiritual awakening in a sense was obvious, surely none of this would have any real effect because you'd see through it, yes? Well, most of us, what we call in a spiritual awakening, we've gone under a spiritual awakening. You have the eyes to see it, yeah? And if you don't, we'll lend you glasses, yes? They're not our glasses, yeah. So, yeah. All right, thanks, Kaiser.
All right, thanks a lot, Paul. If you have a question for Paul, please raise your hand. Bruce has raised his hand. Bruce, if you'd like to unmute yourself and field your question, that'd be great.
Yeah, hi everyone.
Hey, Bruce.
Are you getting an echo this time?
No.
Okay, I was on a different phone. Sorry about that last night. Yeah, after the meeting last night, I don't know, popped into my head. And, in program, I guess the question is, what is my role in it? And the thought, just what role is my in it? Rather than what's my role, what's the role of my in it? Anyway, that's all I got. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Bruce. We had a little riff the other day about the thing in page 64, the recognition that being convinced self manifests in various ways is what has defeated us and is defeating us, or the possibility may still be there. We will now look at its common manifestations. So it doesn't say we will now look at our common manifestations. And so it's attributing resentment and these things we're looking at in the initial inventory as manifestations of self. Yeah. And then what is that our that proceeds like a life? Our life. Yeah. Our this, our that, our ego. What is that? What is that which is before everything else? Yeah. It's very clear that it doesn't mean ours. Yeah. It means something else's. So, yeah, we will now look at its common manifestations, meaning self's common manifestations, not our common manifestations. Why do we keep calling the manifestations of self ours? Just fundamental question. Why?
Well, I take it as the claiming of mental activity, and what's prior to the identification as I.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So what we don't need to look any farther, because you're not going to see what's seen. That's us. But you can see what can be seen, which is these activities. Yeah.
Okay, so more like not to identify, but I'm more the seeing rather
Well,
than
yeah,
what.
you don't identify with the seeing. You are the seeing. There's an act of
Right,
being
right,
identified as something else. That doesn't mean you have
right,
to
right.
identify with a something else. No, it's just
That's what I
see.
meant. That's what I
Yeah,
meant.
yeah,
So we are the seeing. Right.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
thank you. It's
yeah,
very clear.
yeah. So
Okay.
it's not like, oh, I've identified with the wrong thing. No, it's identification. Yeah.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's actually not an act you're doing, it's an act the mental state is doing.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
somehow we follow that story and we live as if, yeah.
Yeah.
And it leads us to a lot of, some of us, incomprehensible, pitiful demoralization. Yes, yet there's no real possibility because we're identified as that which wants to get out of the demoralization, which is the source of the demoralization. Yeah, so we get stuck in a little binary trap because we think, all right, well, I'm going to stop identifying with self and start identifying with something else. You don't need another identification. You just see you're not the identification of self. Yeah? And then you'll find out more of a living activity that's not bound to any idea. It just
All right,
is.
rather than I having a loss of identification. Again, it can be easily in a trap.
Well, yes, because the I isn't identified as self. It isn't. We're addicted to the what we're listening to, and in what we're listening to, we're already self. We don't see any act of being identified. We are one. That's the take on the narrative that we're addicted to.
Right.
So it's not trying to convince us that we're self or we're becoming self. It really bases this whole narrative on an imaginary fact that you already are one. So you're a self, and then let's see what you're going to do. And so basically, it limits a lot of possibility. And then the one we follow to an extreme level, which is trying to get out of self with
Now
drugs and alcohol. And then
try
that failed because of why? You can't get out of something you're not in. So the mistake isn't that you haven't learned, that you got into self. You've never been in self. You're addicted to a narrative that has you already being one.
It's like
Yes?
trying to convince the self that it's not the self.
Yes, it's pointless. And that would be only the self that would do that. Selfing is the only thing that would come up with the idea, I'm going to convince myself that I am not myself. Never been you to begin with. So there's got to be a feeling. Uh, you can't be the self that's being talked about and the self that's talking about. Yeah, they're not.
So I
One of
just
them's not going to get out of the other. There's a space before and around and under and over it. Yeah, that we are of. We are of that.
I
And
and I
a little bit of that goes a long way here. Yes, a little bit of that influence goes a real long way.
I mean,
Yeah.
the one thing that I guess the skillful means, I don't know, is that I do take it, no thought in what, is valid in a sense to listen to. And while being present, there's no time to entertain thoughts or the idea of thoughts. And that helps
Yeah,
seem to
yeah.
help him.
Well, yeah, you've lost interest in thoughts. That's a good condition.
And
Yes.
yeah, not that I've lost interest, but
No,
interest.
there's a loss of
Okay.
interest in thoughts. Yes.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
an
Thanks.
observing, you're we're expressing and observing. So we observe changes. We don't cause the changes. We
Yeah, I don't
observe.
believe in cause. Yeah, you help clear that up, that it's almost like everything is just an effect. I don't get into the cause and effect.
Yes, yeah. So you can tell the tree by its fruits. I mean, that was a pretty clear pointing from somebody. Yeah, you'll know the tree by its fruits. You can't know the tree because you're basically the tree. So you can only be the tree, but you can know the tree by its result, by its fruit. Yes? So here in the dreaming, we know the tree by its fruits. Yeah. Yeah. It's a
All right,
trip. It's hard to understand, and you don't need to understand, as it says right here. Yeah. When you start losing interest in drinking and thinking and all this stuff, a lot of this stuff is academic and pointless. You're free. You might as well enjoy it. It's just like someone we used to have in the meeting here, and we were talking about the relief from the bondage of self, and he hadn't been in the habit of praying for that every day for years, and then he noticed that he was in the condition that he was praying for. So the praying for it that day was a disservice to the clear recognition that he was relieved of the bondage of self. You see, this is the trickiness of stuff. So
when I take a walk, I can see that I'm either in my head or I'm present with my surroundings. No, okay. Well, I'll let go of someone
let's
else.
say yes, yeah. Usually you're always present to the surroundings, and then there's a thought that you're up in your head. it's not it's not a clear recognition of what's going on. It's just an assumption that it throws out, and we're
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
habit
yeah.
of believing it. Yes.
Right. So
And then
belief
we're like the dream
in
factory maker, and then we start making mountains out of molehills. We don't, the head does, and it just goes off. Yeah.
So I take, believing like just believing, be like a leaf on a tree where, no one is apart from another, apparently so, and seemingly so, but, that's my belief.
Well, check out these leaves here. Can you see them?
Yeah, ours are all gone over
Nice
here.
colors, isn't it?
Nice. Beautiful. Yeah, the true color of a tree when the chloroform is out of them. Yeah, that's the true
This is
color.
a walnut tree. It's a beautiful one. Yeah,
Beautiful.
it's doing its final song of the year. It's pretty glorious.
I
Yes.
love watching leaves take their way down and hit the ground and then start dancing around with the wind.
Yeah, it's awesome,
Mhm.
man. It's a beautiful there's so
Yeah.
much beauty pouring out here. So yeah.
Yes. Okay. Thanks again.
All right, Bruce, thank you. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Bruce. If you have a question for Paul, and if you don't have a specific question, but you want to chat and then find your question, you're welcome to raise your hand. There's no raised hands currently. um, Paul, you were talking about self manifesting in various ways is what has defeated us, like on page 64. Um, and that also seems to be a problem that centers in the mind. When you sobered up, you discovered that I assume this is more of a question that it went from I cannot drink to I can not drink. Was that similar with when you saw that the thinking is not necessarily you? Was that a similar twist? Because I'm familiar with um, um, taking the first drink and then not taking the first drink. Um, I'm not completely familiar with not taking the first thought. I don't know if that's the right way to put that, but there seems to be something very similar in what we had read about selfing, the way you put
Yeah. Well, this is how I see it in this right now. You what you see is that there's no one that takes the first thought. Yes?
that.
Yeah. Or you're not that one who took the first thought. So taking a lot of the meaning out of it being you, it takes the meaning out of the thought. Yeah. If the you as the thinker tries to take the meaning out of the thought, it puts it into another thought. It just goes on and on. But in this case, you have an assumption that you've entertained and now is producing effects, is the recognition of the ownership of all that which happens. That presupposing of being the doer before the doing, yeah, which is what the mental state is up to, really. So it reacts to the doing, and it says you're the doer, yeah. And so without the doing, there would be no idea of being the doer. And there's a whole lot of doing that goes on with, and there's no necessariness of being a doer, yeah. Doing is what's happening. The doer is a story or an interpretation of what's happening. Now, most people would say it's me interpreting it that way. I don't believe that. I believe it's the mental activity interprets it that way. Yes? So I don't believe I'm doing the selfing. I believe there's selfing that says that I'm doing the selfing. You see it?
I do.
It's a different flavor.
Yeah, you're describing the position of abstinence in a more broader sense, but then there are questions that come up with, like, there's the feeling of love for another person, or the feeling of caring, or the feeling of affection towards all people. That gets a little confusing because that is very quickly also owned, and it's hard to. That's there. The caring, the affection is there. Could you talk a little bit about that with no one doing it? Just curious.
It doesn't matter if it gets owned. It's going to, but you're not the owning of it. That's the point.
Okay.
This isn't going to stop the head owning what's going on. What never started is that you were the owning of it. Yeah?
Yeah.
See, this is the assumption it lays out. It does something and it says, oh, you've been the doer of this since the beginning. Yeah? Now, we may see the first part, but sometimes we miss the second part, which is, all right, so then it takes another position, and now I'm going to stop doing that which I've never been doing. It just goes on and on and on. So this is about seeing that I'm not the one that's doing that. Yes? I'm not saying if you're waiting for a condition based on that shit stopping, good luck, because it's not under your purview. It's not under your control. You're more an observing of it or a witnessing to it. Yes? It's not about changing it. It's about taking you, which is the life force that's lighting the whole show up, and having it differently directed. So now your attention isn't so much on this whole chain of events. You lose interest in it, and it puts your attention and interest on the other stuff that's happening now, which is not a fucking like a chain link of narrative reinforcing old ideas. Yeah. So you're really lost in the color of this walnut leaf, and then yes, you're just available now because you're not just like it's sort of like a kid in a video game. They're there at your house, they're in the living room, but they're not available. Yes, they're totally sucked in. Yes, yeah. So what would happen if that video game was put down? In this case, the video game can continue. You just see that you're not the one doing it. Yeah. And therefore, then the video game, as being the only thing, gets shrunk and put into one of the squares in the bigger square of the Zoom. Yes. And you can mute it or whatever, or not pay attention to it for hours. Yeah. And then when you go back to it, it has a whole story ready to dump on you. Yeah. But after a while, realizing it's sort of like when you oh, I'm totally lost it. Yes. Oh, I've been totally in my head, but it can suddenly stop and you're in presence. The train didn't have to slow up. You didn't have to turn. It's sort of like as soon as something in you changes, it stops completely. Don't you get it?
A little bit, yeah.
All the trains you've been on, you've never left the station. You think, oh, I got on the train, and when I finally got off, I was at the same station. But you don't get the fact there was no train ride. It was just an imaginary assumption. Because every time you come to, you're at the station. You're in the present moment, aren't you? Have you ever come off a train of thought and found yourself into next week? Have you ever? No. No, never. You're here. Yeah, here. It's imposing itself on you all the time, and you have no idea of it. It's like the water and the fish. Yeah. So, oh, I really lost myself. So he got on that train. Oh, then I did all these things, and I got back to myself. And you're at the same station. The train didn't go anywhere. If anything, it went like this. You never get off at another station. It's always, oh, I'm back. You never left. This is the point. The drive to get back is based on a belief that you've left. That's going to wear itself out because you're going to get back so many times. It's going to dawn on you, you never left. Really, it's sooner or later. It's just going to break that spell because that's what's going on. Yeah?
Yeah.
I came back to my senses. Yeah. Yes?
Yeah, to stop the mind's activity is the mind's activity. Yeah.
The head, yeah. You have to really, in a sense, if you see a pattern, it tells you a lot more than the individual event, yes? So if you see the pattern of all these train rides from the head I took and what took me here and there, and I always end up at the same fucking station, maybe you gotta have a suspicious, maybe I've never really left, yeah? Maybe this has been a whole story, yeah? You don't need an anchor. You're the anchor. Yeah, you're the anchor. You're what you're looking for, as they say in a lot of spirituality. The seeker is the sought. That stability that you're hoping to have in an unstable event called this dreaming, this world, you are the stability. Yeah. When you, in a moment, when you're brought back to the presence, is the presence ever any different? The moment may be, you may be in another location, but when you seem to go back, it's the same. Yes? Spacious, onness. Yeah? There's a clue in there. There's a clue. Something's trying to tell you something. It's sort of like you arrive and then they give you this ritual and then they whisper on having never left. And then you're wondering, what? And after 50, 80 times of going through this ritual, you get it finally. They whisper on having never left. Yeah. So then you'll enjoy or be able to travel lighter through all the seeming journeys because truly they always arrive at on having never left. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Thanks, Paul. So, Gail, what's your take on all this? Do you have a question to forward here?
Yes. Hi, Paul. So thank you for sharing of yourself with us. So I was, and I think I've got some answer here, was kind of struggling with what they say in Course in Miracles about special relationships, those people and the loves of my life. So I recently had a grandchild born, and it's like the love that I'm feeling now, it feels, what's the word I want to say? Like it's a lighter love in terms of like, it's not like, oh, I'm just loving this. I feel the loving moving through me. So there's loving going on. So it's a lighter, actually more full love, because it's not like full of fear. It's not full of ownership. It's just, it's not like I'm detached, because I was thinking, oh, I'm just going to have to be detached from a grandchild or this or that. No, it's like what I'm feeling is like a connection and a loving that's happening, but it is different experience than before, when it was the grasping and the holding on to, and I had something to prove. There was something at stake. It's a free flowing through me. So I just wanted to put that out, just to maybe for on my just confirming in my own heart.
Yeah, that's a beautiful observation, hon. Yeah. Yeah. This isn't about
It's not
just
about
drown
taking
in the love.
messages.
You don't have to be worried about being identified with it. Just drown in it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, one of the great gifts of some older people is grandchildren. I haven't seen them happier. Certain people I know, they've never seen as happy as when they're holding their grandchild. I don't have that. I don't never have had any family, kids or anything. But yeah, enjoy it, eh? Yeah, yeah. It's not your love, it's love.
It's
Yeah.
moving through me. Just
Yeah, it's
mhm.
cool. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This is what these are the effects of recovering from this seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. Yes.
Mhm.
You can have viable relationships with people. You
Mhm.
can be a conduit of love, not the owner of love.
No
Yes, you
more
can allow
hostage
this
taking.
stuff.
No
This
more
is like
hostage taking.
it's lovely to find out. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
No more
So,
taking hostages, huh?
well, yeah, and if there's an attempt to take hostages, it's not you. So you'll have a little compassion concerning your own endeavors. Yes. So, and like the Course in Miracles says, there are no sins here. There's just mistakes, and they can be corrected. Yeah, we
I
have
just
amends, and we just, hey, I overdid it. Shoot me. It's yeah. So like
that's
that.
yeah, that's one of the most
Learn how
beautiful
to
parts.
live. We learn how to live successfully. Yeah.
That's one of the most beautiful parts of your message that resonates with me, when you speak of the two sides of the same coin, when you talk of the cop and the thief, and really getting relief from both. It just resonates with me so much. Thank you for that, Paul.
Well, yes. There's relief from one is a fortification of the other. It doesn't work. Yeah. Yes. You got to recognize the currency, not the coin. Yeah.
Mhm.
The currency is two-sided. Yes. If you believe you're in, uh, there's going to be a wanting to get out. If you believe you're out, there'll be a wanting to get in. And maybe we're not living from the fact we are what we're attempting to get in. Yeah. And we've never been out of it. Yeah. So instead of waiting for the head to comply with our wishes, bypass the head. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
thanks, Gail. It's always a pleasure to see you. I'm happy we've had a chance to meet.
Thanks a lot, Gail. Does anyone else have a question or a comment? You can always raise your hand. I don't see anybody coming up yet, just yet.
You know what would be nice, Kaiser? You could start a small little business. I always thought, of course, you'd have to have too much insurance and everything, but renting Labradors to take to the beach for the day, yes, or when young children, and you can be the grandfather or grandmother for a couple of hours. It would be great. Like when they bring animals to the hospital and the person light up their, how much that's such a joy to watch. Yeah. They bring a freaking horse in the hospital, let's say a dog, and it goes to the rooms and the people. It's just so beautiful because, yeah, so.
It has the same effect as standing in the ocean when it's cold, except the dog is a little warmer than standing in the ocean. It
Yeah,
definitely.
so these the potentiality and your ability to respond like that is there because you see it in events, like seeing a child or an animal or whatever. It's not something you have to acquire. Yeah, it's available. Yeah, yeah. Now there can be a triggering by the dog or by the grandchild, seemingly, but there's also a trigger right where you are that can go off without having to be pulled. Yes, it's not doesn't have to have the setting or the condition. You can have that sense that you get with that dog or with the kids here now in a way. Yeah, yeah. I used to have a lot of love for it being in the water, but it was clear to me the water was not the source of that love. It teased it out of me. So my predilection was when I'm in the ocean, let's say surfing, it just brings a childlike smile to my face. There's no efforting. I don't have to breathe, hyperventilate, meditate. It's just there. And then life retired me to some level concerning that. Yeah. But I realized, like when I got my neck almost broke once, and so I was and the doctor said, "Hey, you're not going to be able to surf again." I said, "That's okay. I've given up things I've loved before because they're not the source of the love." Yeah. So then I find uh, other things that bring the stuff out. Yeah. Yes, because really now the stuff is pushing to go out. It doesn't have to be pulled out. It's pushing to go out. Yes. So now I get absorbed in sanding a piece of table from a Goodwill that I got, fixing it up, and it's like riding a 20-foot wave. Yes, it's the same basic thing, but there's not much. No one's noticing how heroic and great I am. So in a way, it's more humbling environment, but it works. Yeah, yeah. So don't be fooled that something isn't available that's readily available.
That reminds me, Paul, of in use. I wanted to get out of this moment because it was so uncomfortable, and using alcohol would do that, and it had negative effects. Every so often, if I go to a meeting or if I'm having one of those days, I recall being of service and calling someone else and asking about their day. It has a similar effect of taking me out of this terrifically terrible, emotionally torturous state of mind, and just connecting with another person. It seems to be a similar effect.
Well, this thing about not starting, you're in a field like that mostly. You're relieved of that, thinking the moment is uncomfortable. You see that it's uh, when I was constantly seeing all these moments uncomfortable, it wasn't the moment, it was me. Yes. Now I'm in uncomfortable moments, but I'm not uncomfortable. I don't see myself as, yes,
Yeah, you see prior to the one that
it
became.
changes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, yeah. I think this is where the not starting, the abstinence, the habit of being sober, these are effects that become available. Yeah, not like they weren't available, but we are shaped to be able to be available to that. Then it comes out. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's cool.
Thanks. Well, it's I think it's about time. It's in Central Time it's 1:27, so Pacific Time 11:27.
Well, it's 1:26. We're always before you, bro.
There it is.
The West Coast. Yes, we're ahead of the game. You don't know that, do you? No.
I had no idea.
Oh yeah. We know what it's like in Minnesota before you do in California. Yeah, yeah. Just call me if you want to know what's going to happen, because we
No, I
got a
don't know.
different time. You're on a very big time delay over there. Yeah. So much shit's happening by the time you hear about it.
I'll
It's
call you
over.
tomorrow and ask you how my day's gonna go. How about that?
All right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
You want to
So,
say your goodbye?
hey, Marty, I got your message. I'm going to I'll talk to the guy and see if he's all right. I'll send you the thing he sent me. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It may not happen immediately because yeah.
No hurry, no problem.
Things are going slow here at the compound. So
I know some
yeah.
of those benches are kind of hard to sand down.
Well, yeah. Well, see, I've been reading. I read a little of it, and I think it's probably pretty beautiful. But I don't know. I'm not interested in it like anymore. So yeah. So it produces a little. Yeah. So
I know you get to a certain point and reading lots of new information just doesn't really fulfill any deep need anymore. It just doesn't.
well, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's whatever. So just I basically need every month to make a blanket apology to many people.
I had that happen
Because-
to me.
Hmm?
Oh, sorry. I had that happen.
Who's jump? What's going
Oh,
on?
sorry, Annette. If you want to unmute yourself.
Oh,
actually,
Annette, yeah.
go
Come
ahead.
on in and save me,
Sorry,
Annette.
my buttons are slow here. I had that experience last night. I started reading a book and I was on like page 2 of the preface. And it talked about how it was a Buddhist book. So it's just one person's life experience talking about how the goal is to see each of us as not separate. And I thought, okay, well, I'm done. I wonder who I can give this book to. And so, yeah, it hit you.
Yeah.
Places.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I need to read her story for, like, it's probably interesting, but
Yeah. Yeah. This happens. I mean, you really tell a lot about the shift of interest in life is amazing, really. Yeah. Yeah. And again, you see, while the interest is in certain topics, the head is like farming an identity out of it. Yeah. So sometimes it's a little bumpy at the beginning when you lose interest in that, because really the head's using it as an identification reinforcement. So you're identified as someone who's looking into this stuff, or yeah.
yes.
And then when you're moving away from that, the head is sort of bummed out. Yeah, yeah, and it's grasping for another story to get. Yeah, yeah. But hey, this is the part of recovery, really. Yeah. It's like, in a way, the book of your life and how it's written is taken back from the mental state. Yeah. And now you basically start with an empty page and you find out. You don't have a full-blown story from beginning to end. how it was, how it is, how it's going to be. It's the page you're on is being filled now. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's no author. There's no author page, which is nice. Yeah. Uh, you really don't know the problem but from the solution. When the solution sort of starts filling in the space of the problem, then you really know it wasn't what you ever thought. The problem is just a directed concern to a mental idea, really. Yeah. It just, yeah. So I think that thing when Jesus used to talk about, be returned to like a childlike head, in some ways that really rings a bell. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to my breakfast cereal after the talk. That's it. That's pretty nice. My goals of the day are pretty that shooting for the stars has been sort of no, yeah, it's cool. So nice to see everybody today, and I hope we're all sober today if alcoholism and addiction has had us, and start off with a gratitude for that. Yes, no matter what we think the conditions are now, at least we're not in that condition, which is a fucking godsend. Yeah, and yeah. All right, thanks everyone. Let's say goodbye. Kaiser, thank you for your service and stuff, or the service. Al from Vegas, yeah. What's for lunch? Yeah, it's gonna be quinoa with some other stuff, with some blueberries, almond butter. Yeah, I hope anyway. We got a dynamic duo, Bill and Kathleen. There they are. It's like the shotgun is full, pew, a double barrel shot from Delaware. We got Kerry. I think he's still in Montana. Yes, yeah. We got Jack G. I don't know where Jack G is, but I think it's in Cape Cod somewhere. We got Marty. Nice to see you, Marty, again. Michael Stacy, as always. We got Tom in Washington. Tom, you have so much to offer to people. Lots of wisdom is there. Yeah, yeah. Walter, the Netherlands, the brother from another mother. He's making something there. Yes, there he goes. Jacob and Alex, two of my favorite people. There they are. They're the dualistic couple, white and black. Yes, very nice. We got Jeff. Jeff looks like he's riding the coast route down in Southern Cal. It's very nice. Yeah. Obviously, I would imagine the surf is small down there, as usual. We got Rich A from the UK. Nice to see you, Rich. And your family all's well? Oh, good. Great. Roman, as always, getting closer to that radiator. We've been through a lot, Roman. Together. Yes? Yeah. Say hello to Barbara for us. We got Gail. Gail's got the do going. That's nice. Liking it. Yep. We got Mickey, the matriarch. Stefan on having never left. Oh, we got Lebowski. Oh, nice to see James. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Bruce, as always. Nina. Thanks, Nina, for sending me that thing. I'll look at it this morning. Thank you. Yeah. Let me see anyone else here. We've got, Jimmy R. My proximity to the weather is incorrect. We got Sena. We got Oliver from Berlin. I always like seeing Oliver here. Rob from Kentucky. Mia on the iPhone from San Diego now. Dave B. Jess from Ireland. That thing you sent Amelia, Jess, was beautiful. The 10 things. Very nice. Thank you. Sabrina, she's come back for a couple more rounds. That's good. Yeah. She doesn't realize she was knocked out before the fight, but it's good. Keep going. Yeah. We got Catherine, Gail, James. Let's see. I did this. Annette, Stefan, all these folks. I think that's it for the day. Oh, Luke. No, that was Dave. We got him. We've got these folks here. And this one. All right. Hey, thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful day wherever you are. And we'll see you Saturday. We have a live meeting at 1 o'clock Pacific time. It's on the website and a Zoom. And see you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kaiser.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks.
Bye, guys. Thanks for.
Great job, Kaiser.
Thanks again, everyone.
Yeah, good job.
Thanks, everybody.
guys.